There are so many things I want to tell you. I just don't know where to begin. You have been my best friend since we were in kindergarten. We were never without each other, you and I. Where you would go, I would follow, and vice versa. I think I knew back then how I felt about you. I was just too young to understand back then what it truly was. Do you remember in the 8th grade when I was so in love with a new girl? I just knew that I would marry her, especially after the party at her house when we played 7 Minutes in Heaven. You got so jealous, even though you denied it. You're like a brother to me, gross, you said. But I saw how you looked at me when you didn't think I noticed. You seethed every time she reached for my hand. Joy and delight were written all over your face when I told you she moved back to Arizona that summer to live with her father. But you were there to console me, like you always had been, and like you always would be. Then, when we were seniors, your boyfriend broke up with you right before prom. He texted you and he said that he was taking another girl because he knew you weren't going to sleep with him. And you came over to my house after midnight, crawled through my window and into my bed. I held you in my arms all night long while you cried and cried, and kissed your forehead and piled the blankets on top of you while I slept on the floor. God, all I could think about is how much you looked like an angel. Prom night. We had so much fun. We danced and laughed and danced some more. It never occurred to you I hadn't asked anyone to prom, huh? I guess, maybe, I was holding out hope that we would go together. And in the end, we did. I have to admit that every time I looked at you, my heart would ache, and my stomach would tie itself into knots. When we slow danced, and you laid your head on my shoulder, I closed my eyes and allowed myself to be carried away by the scent of you. You smelled strawberries, by the way. I should have told you then how much I loved you, how much I wanted to be yours. But you left for university without ever knowing the truth. Maybe things would have changed. Perhaps things could have been different. Or maybe things happened the way they were supposed to. During our first year, we talked every single day without fail, without interruption. But after a time, the distance grew, and so did we. Ultimately, I think we got so caught up in the routine of college life that the phone calls and the texts slowed to a crawl, and eventually stopped altogether. During our 3rd year, I came home for Christmas, expecting you to be sitting at the kitchen table with my mom, drinking hot chocolate like always. But when I walked in the door, and you weren't there, I knew something had changed. I went across the street to your mom's house with one arm full of gifts and a mug of hot chocolate. When she opened the door, she greeted me with a sad smile. She told me that you weren't coming home for Christmas. Instead, you were spending it with your fiancé. She just assumed that you told me. I was so crestfallen, and she could see the heartbreak written all over my face. She took the gifts and the hot chocolate from me and gave me a big, long hug. She knew what I knew, that I was in love with you. And now there was no chance. I stood there in the cold, snow falling all around me, looking up at your window. I was half expecting to see your pretty face, but for the first time in a long time, I felt utterly alone without you. You were gone. But then she came into my life like a whirlwind of nerdy jokes and quirky outfits. She was the female version of me. She was books and video games, superhero movies and cosplays. She understood me. She got me. I didn't have to explain everything that was happening in the film to her. I didn't have to prove myself either. She was so easy to fall in love with. But she wasn't you. So here I sit, staring out of the window. I'm not thinking about her. I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about how last night you crawled through my window and into my bed like you used to so long ago. You had tears in your eyes, and your words come out in a rush. You told me that I was making the biggest mistake of my life by marrying this girl. You said that you and I were meant to be, and that you'd loved me ever since I made you that mud pie in the backyard of your mom's house. You said that without a shadow of a doubt, you knew we belonged together. You reached up onto your tippy toes and pressed your lips to mine, and I swear that every emotion that I had buried since I was a kid bubbled up to the surface. I kissed you back harder, and you moaned against my mouth. I pulled your hair back gently and kissed the hollow of your neck, and you grabbed my bare shoulder, digging your nails into them. I glanced down at your hands and noticed that you weren't wearing your engagement ring, and I looked at you questioningly, but your face held my answer. You weren't his anymore. When you placed your hands on my chest, a shudder rippled through my body, and you gave me a devilish grin. Sweat clinging to your skin. You looked like a work of art. You reached out to me and told me that it was your turn to make me feel good. But I pulled you into my arms and I kissed you instead. You looked up at me, a million questions written all over your face. We have plenty of time for that, my love, I said. I haven't stopped thinking about last night, and how you looked, nestled in my arms. I wanted that moment to last forever, but now I have a decision to make. Because today is my wedding day. Do I marry the woman who healed my broken heart and saved me from my loneliness? Or do I choose a woman I've loved my entire life? I have to decide soon. I only have a few hours.